Hello, everyone. This is Homer White here with a little screencast to help you learn how to work with course materials on the RStudio server to learn statistics in this course. Um, I've logged on to RStudio and I'm looking at my home directory over here. You can see home here in blue, and so I've got many files and directories inside of my home directory. But I don't actually have any of the course material in my home directory, and you're not going to have that either. That's another place on the computer. How do you get outside of your home directory to these other places to access that other material? Here's how. You go to the upper right-hand corner or near it on the files pane, and you'll see a dot, dot, dot. And when you hover over it, it says go to directory. Dot, dot, dot is ellipses. In the English language, it stands for, and there's more, but I haven't written it down. And that's the idea here. There's more files on this server than what you can see in your home directory. Press that button. You're going to get a little dialog box that helps you go to some of these other places. And the place you would like to go is /. That is the symbol that is underneath the question mark on most keyboards. /COM. COM is just short for common folder, where instructors at Georgetown College have placed course materials on the RStudio server. Once you've got that /COM typed in, just press OK. And you'll be moved to the common folder. You can tell you're there because you see the / and then COM after it in blue at the top here where I'm waving my mouse. And you see a number of directories inside the common folder. Go to Dr. White Stuff because that's where you're going to find my courses. Simply click, and then you're going to want to look for Math 111 because that's the course you're in. And then you're going to get another bunch of folders inside of Math 111. The course documents folder will have a few things in it. Right now, it just has a PDF copy of our textbook, Open Intro Statistics. So it's a quick way for you to look at the textbook, but I do recommend that you follow the directions on the website that's referenced in the syllabus for the course to get your own PDF copy and download it to your computer, because it's going to look nicer and be easier to navigate and work with than just a PDF that you grab off of the RStudio server. But this is here in case you need it. I'm going to push the blue Math 111 to get back to the Math 111 folder. Test solutions. Hey, I wonder what's there. Well, nothing right now. We haven't had any tests. Let's push Math 111 again. DA is the folder where you're going to see daily assignments that you'll need to do regularly. If I push that right now, I see quite a few DAs covering all the topics that we're ever going to do in the course. Let me go back to Math 111 by pushing Math 111. And old DAs worked by Dr. White is going to be where the solutions go. If I press now, I don't see anything in there. I haven't posted any solutions yet. Let me press Math 111 again. Slides. So this is where you're going to see all of the slides for the course. So if you press, then you see basically a set of slides that goes along with every DA in the course. And there's one that we're going to look at today. OS 0.0, first slides. OS just stands for Open Intro Statistics, our textbook. 0.0 is supposed to be the chapter and the section number, but this is just like sample slides. It doesn't really go along with anything in the textbook, so I just call it chapter 0, section 0. But we do want to take a look at these slides because we're going to use them as a sample to show how you can learn from the slides. So I'm going to click on the blue name of that file. And I get a choice. I can open it in the editor, or I can view it in the web browser. Now you're going to want to take that second choice, view in web browser. And I'll just show you here why. If I press open in editor, it's going to think for a little moment, and then it's going to open up the source material for these slides. These slides are actually in the form of a web page, an HTML document. And so it's just this vastly complicated technical stuff that's of absolutely no use to us trying to learn statistics. So I'm going to go in my editor pane to the little X next to the name of the file, and I'm going to press it so I can close that file. Let's try again. Press on OS 0.0. Let's take that second option, view in web browser. And it's going to pop up probably in the same web browser that you're using to view RStudio itself. And you can navigate through the slides. I seem to have, for some reason, made this big. There we go. You can navigate through the slides by using the left and right hand arrows on your keyboard. So for example, on my Mac, and I'm looking at my keyboard now, the left and right arrows are near the lower right hand corner of my keyboard. And so if I press the right arrow, then I move to the first page of the slides. I think there's actually, yeah, I'm going to move my picture. There's actually like little page numbers on the slides where I'm waving my mouse down here, so you can kind of keep track of that. Okay. So what do the slides tell us to do? First of all, it tells us, hey, there's an R package that you're going to need to do some of your work for this section of the course. And that package is called TigerStats. There are lots of packages that come along with the R programming language that is used to do this in this course. TigerStats is just one of them. And you need to make sure that this package is what we call attached to your R session, so that R will know about all of the data sets and functions that are inside of this package. It'll be able to use them for you. So we need to run this command, library TigerStats, in our R session. You can always tell what the commands are because they have this kind of gray background. And it says, what does it say? Copy, paste the above line into the console and press enter to run it. So sounds good. I'll do that. So I have selected that text, and I have just asked to copy. Now, copying, folks, a lot of people will do a right click with their computer and then go copy. That is totally fine. But I'll tell you, a quicker way is actually to use a keyboard shortcut. If you're using a Mac, it's Command-C. And if you're using Windows, it's Control-C. You're going to do a lot of copying and pasting, so might as well learn that keyboard shortcut. So Command or Control-C will copy what you've selected. Okay, I have done that. And now I'm going to head over to RStudio. And I'm going to head to the console down in the lower left. I'm going to go to that blue prompt, that little blue arrow that you see at the bottom. And it's ready for me to type an R command in. Well, I've got it in my clipboard. I'm just going to paste in that command. Now, again, you could do a right click and ask to do some kind of paste, but I'm just going to do a Command V on a Mac, or Control V if you were on a Windows machine. And that'll paste in your command. And then just run it. And sometimes when you load a package, it gives you lots and lots of information that you don't have to worry about now, but it'll come out at you in the console. Now TigerStats is attached and it's ready to use. Okay, you want to head back to the tab on your browser that has your slides and continue on. So Using R like a calculator is the first section. So fact is, R is this full-featured, very complex programming language that can just do a tremendous amount of stuff. And we're only going to scratch just a little bit of the surface of the language to get what we need for this elementary statistics course. But one of the first things you want to know about R is that it can work like your calculator, those graphing calculators that you might have used in high school. Uh, you can enter arithmetic computations pretty much the same way that you did with a graphing calculator. You want to add 30 and 45? No problem. The result will be 75. Hey, let's check to see if that really works. And this is really important when you're working with slides in this course. If we show something on slides, go ahead, give it a try yourself, and see if it'll work. So you could copy and paste that, but it's also short. You could just remember what it was and go to RStudio and give that a try. And that's a good thing to do, is every so often just type things in yourself rather than copy paste. That way you teach yourself good typing and keyboard habits. So I'm going to try this. 30 plus 45. It's just a matter of style for me that I put spaces between the numbers and the plus sign. I get 75 out. You didn't need the spaces, not really. 30 plus 45 without spaces gives you the same thing. Hey, let's try 23 plus, 2,457. Yeah, it really does work. So that's what you want to do. When the slides show you something, you want to copy and paste it or type it into the console and give it a try, see that it works, but also maybe consider varying it. Ask yourself some what-if questions. What if I did this other thing? What would happen? And that's a great way to really imbibe what's going on, this kind of active participation with the slides. Okay. What else have we got? If we want to multiply, we just use an asterisk. So the asterisk on the keyboard is going to be above the number 8 near the top. And sure enough, 5 times 10 is 50. If you want to do more complex computation, you need to use parentheses to order the operations. So if you wanted to subtract 23 off of 27.2, and then after that, divide the result by 8.4, you're going to need to put that first operation inside of parentheses to make sure that works like you want. And the result is supposed to be 0.5. Let's see if this really works. So I'm going to copy, head to RStudio, and paste that in. Yeah, and I get 1/2. On the other hand, if I'd left off those parentheses, wonder what that would have been like. Hey, let me give it a try. Let me do it with leaving off the parentheses. Now, I could type that in, but here's another little trick that's nice to know. You can actually go back to a previous command very easily if you're working at the console. If that little line is flashing right after the prompt, you can go and push your up arrow key on your computer keyboard, and you can get back exactly the previous command. In fact, every time you push an up arrow, you will go, you see what's happening there? You will go to a previous command, the previous one in your history. So I'm now going to press the down arrow for a little bit and get back to that previous command. And I'm just going to go backspace a bit with the left arrow, and I'm just going to remove that first parenthesis and remove the one at the very beginning. And I'm going to run this command, and I'll show you that you get a different answer because it's doing the division before it does the subtraction. So we'll run it just by pressing return. And sure enough, we get this very different number. So the parentheses really were important. Again, varying things to see what happens, active participation. That's how you really learn and enjoy the material. Okay, back to the slides. If you want to square something, no problem. You use the caret and then the 2 for squaring. Now the caret is over the 6 on your keyboard, so it's a shift 6 to get it. And sure enough, 8 squared is 64. If you wanted to cube, well, you would just raise to the third power. So like 5 to the third power, 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. If you want square roots, one way to get them is to use the sqrt function, squirt. So it's a function, and in R, functions are used by putting in parentheses after the name of the function the thing you want to work on. So if I want to take the square root of 16, I just say squirt, and then open parenthesis, then the number 16, and then that close parenthesis. And then I'll get the 4. I better check and see if this is right. Copy, go back to our studio, paste, give it a try. Yeah, I got 4. What if I did the square root of 100? Yeah, I would get 10. What if I did the square root of 8? And I get some decimal, about 2.8. That seems to be working. What if I did the square root of minus 10? And then it's like, wait a minute, you're asking me to take the square root of a negative number. I can't do that, I can't do that. And so it produces what is called NaNs, not a number. Okay, back to the slides. Suppose you wanted this complicated thing, the square root of 100 times 0.3 times 1 minus 0.3. All you got to do is use our like calculator, except that you got that square root function. So squirt, and then open parenthesis, and then all of the things that you want to put in, close parenthesis. And if you run that, you're going to get about 4.58. So I could copy, paste, and run it to see how it's working. I could do that. But let me go ahead and try to type this one, because I want to just show you a couple of little features that happen when you're typing an R command. So back to our studio. So I'm going to try squirt. And then I type the open parentheses, and it immediately typed the close parentheses for me. You know, it figured I would need them. And my cursor is now in between those two parentheses. So just keep in mind that R is doing that, is sort of trying to type a little bit of extra stuff for you when it thinks it might be helpful. And then let's try 100 times 0.3 times, and I think it was parentheses, 1 minus 0.3 close parentheses. I didn't really need the close parentheses. I think it already had them there for me, but I went ahead and typed them anyway. And I'm ready to run this command. And sure enough, after I press enter, out comes the 4.58. Let's see what else there is to learn. Say you have this really complicated computation here. So it's a fraction. And on top of the fraction is 35 minus 30, and on the bottom of the fraction is that complicated quantity, that we just worked with. You could, if you wanted this, you could enter it all at once. You could just type all of this in, and you have to be careful, parentheses around the 35 minus 30, so the subtraction is done before you divide. And you could get it. You sure could. But there's another thing you could do. You could break the operation into smaller bite-sized pieces. And you can do this, essentially, R has a way of storing things in what you might consider its memory, like a calculator has memory. And you can give names to stuff. So check this out. My top is, and that is a less than sign immediately followed by a hyphen, no spaces in between. That's an assignment operator. And what it's saying is that the name my top is going to be associated with the result of that computation that's on the right-hand side of the assignment operator, 35 minus 30. I'm just going to try this one little line right now. So I'm going to copy that and head back to our studio. And I'll paste it in, and I'll run it. And notice something very interesting happened. When you look at the console, it looks like nothing happened. You just went to another blue prompt. But over here in the upper right-hand corner in your environment pane, it's no longer empty. There is now some stuff that's in what we call your global environment. R now knows that the name myTop goes with the number 5. That's what it is. Okay, back to the slides. This second line, my bottom is the square root of the 100 times the 0.3 times the 1 minus 0.3. Let's copy that. And let's paste it into the console and run. And sure enough, my bottom shows in, and it's 4.5 like we found out before. And then we could get the division that we wanted by doing my top divided by my bottom. And so I'm going to, I could copy paste that again, but I'm just going to practice my typing skills. Do this every so often when you're working with the slides. Practice your typing skills. I'm going to head to RStudio and I'm going to try to see if I can do this. Oh, look at that. I only got a few characters into it, and R started looking around in its global environment to see if there were any names that started with the stuff I had typed in. And so it did a little autocomplete suggestion for me. It suggested maybe I want my top. So I could keep on typing, but I could also just press return, and it will finish typing my top for me. And then I can do the / for the division, and then my bottom. Oh, and it finds my bottom, so I'll pick that. So this is really nice. Type slow enough and be kind of watching for those autocompletes, because that's a great way to avoid misspelling stuff. R cares totally about the spelling. It is totally case sensitive as well. My top with the capital T is not the same thing as my top with a little t. So those spellings are very important, and that's why this auto-completion should be looked at. Well, I've got the operation there. Now I'm ready to press return, and I get the result that I was supposed to get after the division. So that's just one way to do a more complicated bit of arithmetic. Thinking about the slides again, if you wanted, you could actually copy and paste as many lines as you want. So like I could copy all 3 of those lines, and then Control or Command C, depending on your computer, get it onto the clipboard, head back to RStudio, and you paste, Control or Command V, and notice that all 3 lines got pasted in, and R recognizes the 3 separate commands. When you press enter, it runs all 3 of those things. And just for kind of fun, notice that in your global environment, you now have these 2 items. If your global environment ever gets so big that it's kind of confusing and you don't really know what's in it and what's not, no problem. You can just push the little broom here where I got my mouse. And it'll ask, are you sure you want to remove everything? And you say, yeah. And it's empty again. Okay. Let's just have a little fun with the graph. So we have not, really studied any statistical concepts yet to speak of. But when we do, we're going to look at a lot of data tables that come with R packages. And one such data table is M111 survey. That's short for Math 111 survey. It was a survey that was done several years ago on all the students in the fall semester who were in a Math 111 class. And if you run these 2 commands, you can get kind of a look at the data table. View M111 survey and help M111 survey. So I'm going to copy those, head back to RStudio, and I'm going to paste them in. And I'm going to run them. Now the view pops up this Excel-like look at the data table over here in my editor pane. So it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. Every row is a person who was in the survey, and every column is a variable that was recorded about that person. So for example, one of the variables was seat. And you might wonder, like, what variable is that? Well, if you go over to the help, which popped up because of the help command, the help here is now showing instead of your files. See the help pane is on top. You can look down and you can see that seat was the response to the question. When you have a choice, where do you prefer to sit in a classroom? And it looks like the responses, just looking down in the view, were 1 front, 2 middle, and 3 back. So front row, middle, second and third rows in most classes in our college, and back would be the fourth row. There's usually not more than 4 rows. So somebody might wonder, like, could we get a look at like how many people prefer what position in the classroom? So that's our little research question for now. Let's see how we might get an answer to that. We'll learn later that you can make what are called bar graphs if you learn the right R code for it. GF bar is a function inside a package that comes along with Tiger Stats, and it makes bar graphs. And here are the parentheses, the opening and closing parentheses for making the bar graph. And what you do is you tell it what variable in the data set you want to make a bar graph with. So that's the seat variable. You let it know it's a variable by putting this twiddles in front. Don't worry, we're going to learn and review all these concepts in more detail in later chapters soon. There's a little comma here, and that just means, hey, I've not finished telling GF bar everything it needs to know to make my bar graph. I need to give it another what we call argument. The second argument is data equals M111 survey. And that's saying what data table that variable seat lives inside of. And then another comma. And then our final argument, little optional argument, says what color the bars of the bar graph should be. And that's done by stipulating that the fill, the color that you fill the bars with, shall be burly wood. That's just a color. So we want to copy and paste all this. Notice I was very careful. I went and copied and pasted the entire bunch of code all the way down to that closing parenthesis. And let's head to RStudio. Let's give it a try. So I've pasted it in, and I press, and look. Over here in where my files usually live, now there's a new tab that's on top. It's the Plots tab. And we can see a little bar graph here. I'd like to get a little closer look at it for a minute. You see zoom? I'm going to press on zoom, and I get a much closer look. And so what I'm seeing is that I've got 3 bars, one for each of the possible seating options. And on the vertical axis, it's telling me how many, the height of the bar is telling me how many people had each preference. So it looks kind of like maybe about 27 people prefer the front, and about, I don't know, 32 people maybe prefer the middle, and maybe 12 people prefer the back. And so, front and middle are much more popular than the back, is what we're learning from this data. If I want to get out of the view, I just go to the box where it is, and I click a little X, and it goes away. Now, if I would like to see my files again in my home directory, I could just press the Files button, and I see my files. If I press the plots, I get to see the latest plot that I produced. Back to the files. Oh, let me see. Let's see what else we can learn from the slides. Notice that the next slide on just actually showed you the graph that you would get, so you know what to expect, when you try it out for yourself. You can refine your graph. You can actually, you can choose from actually many, many different colors. R can deal with millions of colors, literally millions of them. But there's 657 of them that actually have names. And if you were to run the function colors, doesn't need any arguments inside those parentheses, just colors and then the parentheses, then you're going to get a little vector of 657 color names. The first 10 are shown here in the slides, but why don't we give this a try? Tell you what, I'll type this into RStudio. So I'll go down, colors, open and close parentheses, press return. And it's a lot of stuff. Wow. Hey, I would like to see more of it at once. So I'm going to go to like the borderline between these two panes, and you'll see there's like a little crosshatch now for my mouse, and I can like move up and I can get more height to any of the panes that I would like. And then it's easier to kind of scroll through and take a look at all the wonderful choices for colors. Lots and lots of colors. Lots of variations on gray. Interesting. Okay, and then whatever you want, you can just change the heights back to what you like. While we're at it, you could make one tab very small by going here where I'm waving my mouse. And don't worry, you can make it reasonably bigger again, or you could make it like all the way big, or regular again. So you can always resize things like that. Oh, you can resize things vertically as well. Watch, I go to the boundary here, and I can go like back and forth, and I get some little resizing abilities. That's nice. Okay, so the idea is there's all these different colors, that you could use. So back to the slides, if you wanted to change the color, you can do so. You just have the same basic command, except the fill is quotes sky blue, okay? And then you should get that in your plots pane. So I'll leave you to try that one out. And it's also, after you tried it out, you'll want to begin this first sample DA. And it's these slides that are going to tell us how to do the sample DA. So until next time, so long.